What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm also going to break down some very big news that came out involving Trump's tariffs, why we're seeing the market essentially dump, and then all of a sudden get a massive pump right back up as the tariffs have been delayed. So I'm going to break down more information about this, what Donald Trump has done, and what this means for us moving forward. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Mumu link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total. And the offer ends very soon at the end of March. Anyways, looking at the markets, we got this news that came out. As a quick reminder, Donald Trump said that he wants to impose 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico and 10% tariffs on China. He also mentioned that there's going to be some differences in the clauses. So, for example, for the Canadian tariffs, they're going to be 10% for like petroleum and things just like that. This led to a lot of fears and a potential trade war that was going on. And as a result, Trudeau from Canada, the Prime Minister of Canada, came out. He said that Canada is going to retaliate and they're going to increase tariffs to 25% on certain American goods, about over $100 billion worth of them. So there's all this fear that was going on, all this talk about a trade war. That's why the market gapped down and started dipping. That's the reason why there was so much fear. Now, as this happened, in my morning video, I warned you all that I saw that Donald Trump was going to be speaking with many officials from Canada and Mexico, and to wait and see if there's some big news which could cause a lot of volatility. And as time went on, something happened. We have a new deal that struck and the tariffs got delayed, and the market saw a huge bounce as a result of this. So why did this happen? What is going on? Let's go over some details. I went over the pros and cons of the tariffs, at least in a nutshell, in my previous videos, and you guys can know that when it comes to tariffs, if they were truly imposed, for the short term, this would be negative for GDP, cause higher inflation, and things just like that. This is why the market was dipping when this data was coming out, pricing in a lot of stuff. So that's why there was all this fear. There's fear this would affect the economy for the short term, affect businesses, and so on and so forth. But then I also mentioned to you all that the pros of these tariffs, you could argue, is that, this would increase government revenue, this and that. And then this could also be used as a negotiation tactic. Now, nothing was guaranteed at the time because, like yesterday, it looked like the tariffs were already being imposed. But remember, that was also one of the things we talked about. This could be used as a negotiation tactic. Now, whether you like Trump's game or not, whether you like what was done or not, it's up to you guys to decide. I just want to lay the facts for you guys out there. So what happened today was, okay, we had all this news. There was about to be these new tariffs. And then Donald Trump started to negotiate with the president of Mexico. Her name is Claudia. They came together. Okay, they started to negotiate, and they have a new deal that essentially came out. Both Trump and her confirmed this. So what happened was Trump agreed that he's going to pause the tariffs for 30 days. A 30-day pause, a delay, whatever you want to call it, for 30 days. Okay, but in response, that would happen if Mexico were to agree to do this, which is reinforce their northern border with 10,000 members of the country's National Guard to address lots of issues. So that is what Trump's move was. He got Mexico to agree to do this, put in more troops at the border, and address some issues. I'm not here to really get too political. I just want to say that that's what ended up happening. And by doing this, they have agreed to delay the tariffs. So that is the first piece of news that helped the market start to bounce. That was, bullish news technically because the tariffs got delayed. That's the main reason. And then the same thing happened with Canada. So Trump spoke with Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, this morning. They spoke, and then they came up with another deal. So Trudeau first announced that the Canadian tariffs were also delayed. They were suspended. At least that's his words. Trump confirmed the deal. What happened was Trump and Trudeau have agreed that the plan to impose 25% tariffs would be on hold for at least 30 days. So it's delayed by a month as well for Canada. But in response, right, for this to have happened, Canada agreed that they would once again be devoting nearly 10,000 personnel to protect their border, Once again, very, very important news. They also invested, I think this was like made like last year, another $1.3 billion when it comes to, protecting and doing other things to their border. But once again, not trying to get political here. Whether you like this or disagree with this, it's your opinion, guys. I respect it. I just want to say that this was bullish for the markets. Why is this bullish? Because the tariffs have been delayed. Because the tariffs that would have caused negative short-term effects are not going to be in place for the time being. They're not going to be imposed for now. It's delayed by at least 30 days. So that's why the market is bouncing now, making a move back up. This is also a form of manipulation. They dumped the market really hard. We start to see a lot more put buying in our order flow. People started shorting the market, thinking the market was going to crash, and then they pumped it right back up really, really fast. Happened very quickly just to squeeze those shorts and screw over as many people as possible. So the market makers were very, very tricky. And this is what led to this move to the upside, a little short squeeze. We'll see if SPY can break this next resistance to try to go higher. We'll talk more about the levels in just a couple of minutes. Now, a couple of things to mention, okay? Don't forget that tomorrow is going to be Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. At 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the JOLTS job openings reports, not to mention job quits and other factors like that. Then we have Bostic and Jefferson giving some speeches, so get ready for that. We'll look for some high volatility at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 30 minutes after the stock market opens. For other factors, please know that today we just got Palantir announcing their earnings. They did very, very well. And then tomorrow before market open, we have PayPal and Spotify announcing earnings. And after market close, we have AMD and Alphabet/Google, not to mention Snapchat. So it's going to be very, very important. The big one is going to be Google, though. Get ready for some big tech earnings tomorrow. It's going to cause more volatility. But how about Palantir? How did Palantir do today? Fortunately, they did really, really well with earnings. They announced that they have a very, very strong expectations for 2025. Sales are expected to be about $3.75 billion in 2025. Great news with operating income at about 1.56 billion. All of that is above, previous expectations. We were expecting 3.54 billion in revenue for 2025. Instead, it's even higher than that. Operating incomes were expected to be 1.37 billion. They're actually doing better than that. So once again, very, very bullish news. On top of this, they did talk about their AI developments, how they're improving national security and factors just like that. Their earnings were also up 36% to about $827.5 million in revenue, above expectations. Profit, excluding some items, was at 14 cents per share, above expectations. Bullish news. They also deepened their connections with the U.S. Defense Department. Bullish news as well. That's the reason why their sales with the U.S. government jumped 45%. Everything was bullish, guys. Great job by Palantir. The share price is up like 20%. It's just absolutely exploding. So for the Fear and Greed Index, this is currently at fear right now. We saw a little bit more fear that was subsided. We'll see if the market becomes more neutral by tomorrow. The momentum is at extreme fear. It should be bouncing back up to like fear, if not neutral, at least for now. The put to call option ratio started going up as soon as we started to see lots of put buying. The market got squeezed, so very interesting stuff. And the VIX has been breaking upwards, but don't forget there's a big gap to fill below, so we'll see how it reacts. But for now, this is what the market is doing. So what do I see for the charts right now? It's very simple, guys. We have an interesting range, okay? Let's look at this pattern. So when SPY hits 608 to 610, we tend to reject. This happened 1, 2, 3 times, right? We have 3 rejection moves off this area. Very, very tough resistance in the 610 to 608 zone. But then as we come down to about 590, notice that we had 1, 2, 3 bounces off 590. So this is our range on SPY. It's a kangaroo market. We went up and down. We're just jumping back and forth. So in this case, SPY looks like it wants to push higher because the tariffs have been delayed on Canada and Mexico, and the market really liked that news. So if you want to be bearish on SPY, just hypothetically, okay, you want to see us lose 598. If 598 fails us, we could be dipping back down to 595. If we're bullish and we hold above 601.5, I'm looking for an attempt for 603, and eventually higher levels like 605 plus. So overall, guys, I think there's a good chance we try to continue, especially as we have this gap to fill on the daily. So I think what's going to likely happen is we will attempt to go a little bit higher on SPY, but there's no guarantee the move will last forever because, like I said before, the closer we get to those all-time highs, the more likely we are to reject. As long as we're above 601.5 tomorrow, we could see SPY attempt to get back up to like 605 or so for a small push to the upwards direction. This may also depend on the JOLTS job openings and job quits report at 10 a.m., so we'll see about that. And then once SPY tries to get up to these levels, I'm not sure if it'll go up to all-time highs or not, but there's going to be a risk of us coming back down, whether we push up towards like these all-time highs or not, if we come a little bit short. I'm going to be looking for a move like this. We push a little bit higher, hopefully getting closer to 605, maybe even higher than that, but then we might be making a move right back down as we're technically in this range right here. We have a very, very nice range on SPY that's been slowing this thing down for quite some time. So I hope that's as clear as possible. Look for a little bit more upside tomorrow. As long as you're above 601.5, we're looking for an attempt to push more. And then we'll be watching to see if we get a rejection as we get close to like 605. If not, that's 608 to 610 area. On the QQQ, we closed above our 20 EMA, which is a very, very good sign. I'm sorry, I don't think we closed above. We're actually above it in the after hours. So it's still trying to push in the after hours thanks to Palantir. Whether this pushes more may somewhat depend on PayPal's earnings. If they do well, this should continue. Depends on that though. As we hit the 500 to 507 area, notice that we love to see the QQQ bounce. And as we hit the 530 zone, we tend to reject. So watch 521 as our main support. As long as we're above this, this will likely try to continue for the 525 plus area. And then if we're bearish, you want to see us essentially lose 520, then eventually 516. That's the more bearish case. I'm leaning more in favor of this trying to go a little bit higher now. As long as we're above 521, I'm looking for 523 and 525, then eventually back up towards these highs. Just know the closer we get to 530, the more we tend to reject. So even if we do push higher, we could be looking for a rejection move back down. But overall, I'm favoring upside for essentially 525 then 530, so please keep that in mind. For the Russell 2000, IWM, we are looking a bit more bullish. We're looking for an attempt for about 226.5. If that breaks, we're looking for 228. If we end up losing support at 225, we're looking for a dip back down to 222. But in my opinion, I think the Russell's looking more bullish. This is favoring 228 or so, and we'll see if we get a rejection. But I think that the Russell wants to push a little bit more for 226.5 than 228, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. For ES, we look a little bit more bullish. We need to try to hold 60-60. If we hold this tomorrow, we might be trying to push for about 6100, which is where this imbalance is. But every time we hit the 6100s, we do tend to reject. So there could be a move back down like this right after we hit 6100. We'll watch and see if we make a lower high or not. We could even draw like a trend line just like this as our next resistance. So I'll be watching this at least very, very closely just to see how this responds. And then on top of this, guys, if we can't hold 60.36 tomorrow morning, if there's bad news, then we will be dipping back down to 6,000. So those are your levels to watch for. If 60.36 breaks, we turn back down to 6,000. And if 60.60 holds, if we hold above that, we're looking for a push higher. The 4-hour looks bullish, so we are technically favoring. We want to go a little higher, maybe closer to about 60.80 than 6100. And we'll see if we get a rejection off that or not. But for now, we do look like we want to bounce more. I also say this because of earnings. NQ, look at this range, guys. It's been range trading. Every time we hit 21,000, we bounce. When we hit 22,000, we reject back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's all it's doing, essentially. We're about to get a bullish cross in the PPO, so we might be looking for a move like this. As long as we're above 21,550, we're looking for an attempt for 21,750 or above. And then if we are below 21,500, we're looking for a dip back down. I favor a move back up to 21,800 or so before we end up dipping back down like this. And if we end up losing support at 21,375, we could be dipping back down. I favor a little bit more upside before we make a move back down. We just continue to consolidate like this. As long as there's no bad news tomorrow with the tariffs being delayed, this should try to push a little bit more. Hopefully, PayPal does well with earnings and this starts pushing for 21,800. So give this the time it needs. Bitcoin, if we lose 99,800, we could be jumping back down to about 96,000. As long as we're above 101,000, we're looking for a push for 104,000. My gut tells me this might be pushing for 104,000. We'll see if we get a rejection or not. So please watch this very, very closely as we're technically in a range. I'm favoring 104,000 as our resistance to the move back down after that as the most likely possibility. For the rest of these tickers, when you look at Nvidia, for example, it's looking nice because it's trying to base at 115. So good job by Nvidia. We have this gap to fill at 120. So I anticipate it's going to be pushing for 120, if not a little bit closer to these EMAs towards 122. So look for 120 to 122 is our targets for tomorrow. Might consolidate tomorrow as we tend to do it right at this range. If we break 122, I'm looking for an even bigger push for 126. But for now, I'm looking for essentially 122 as our target for a little bit more upside on Nvidia. Then we'll see what kind of reaction we get. Now, Tesla's in an interesting place. We got to hold above 386 tomorrow. As long as we hold this, we could attempt to push for essentially 395, then eventually close to 400 if that breaks. So I anticipate that as long as we're above 386, look for the 394 area, break that, and we're looking for an attempt to push for that gap fill for just around that 400 area. Then we could be dipping back down like this just to watch and see how things end up going. If we don't hold 386 and we lose 380, we could turn back down towards 374. But I'm favoring that this will try to push hard to fill the gap. I'm hoping that we just try to hold above 386 as long as there's no bad news, and we see some buyers push it for 394 at the very least, and eventually that 400 gap up here in the low 400s. So I'm hoping we get a bounce here. We just continue to consolidate. That's what Tesla's been doing, as it's in a much larger wedge right now. But I'm looking for a little rebound. As long as we're above our 200 EMA, it does favor that small push. Apple's trying to rebound, especially after the tariff news. Inverse and shoulders like setup. We're also trying to hold support here. If we end up hypothetically losing 226, we're looking for a dump to this imbalance at 222. If we break past 230, we're looking for an attempt for 233. My gut tells me that we're trying to hold above 230 to push to 233, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not. So look for an attempt to push for this 233 target, and we'll see if we bounce. Overall, this could be affected by some big earnings, but I see potential in this chart. Netflix is just very flat. It dumped only to get bought back up, and it's consolidating between the 900 and 60s and basically 990. So I anticipate it's going to just continue to consolidate like this in this range. Look for push for 990, a little dip in some sideways price action like this. Not really doing a whole lot. MSTR is trying to bounce. We got to try to hold above this trend line. We dumped only to get bought back up. We have this yellow trend line that's trying to hold up. Sorry, this white trend line, not yellow. And we have this resistance at our 50 EMA. If we get back above 350, we're looking for an attempt to slowly uptrend for 360. My gut tells me it's going to try to hold 350 and kind of like uptrend like this and slowly push up for the 360 area. For Celsius, we're also trying to rebound right over here. As long as we don't end up losing 23.5, we're looking for an attempt to push back up towards 24.5. So watch that very, very closely. We have this previous support becoming resistance we're going to likely be testing. So this zone right over here, the 24.5-ish zone, I do think we're going to be revisiting that. So look for a small push at least tomorrow. Supermicro, it's very, very volatile. We got this pump and dump. As long as we're above 28.76, we're looking for an attempt for 30. We got to break this to turn more bullish, start filling this gap up here. With Nvidia trying to push, I think we might be visiting 30, and we'll see if we break it or not, but I see some potential in this, at least nonetheless. Now, at the time I'm speaking, guys, Palantir is on fire. This thing is up 24%. I mentioned to you all that I was bullish on the chart overall in terms of its direction. I was anticipating a temporary move to the downside because of the tariff news, but once that changed, it's back to bullish. Looking for 105 and above. It's looking very, very strong, guys. Expect a big gap up tomorrow. Rivian is looking nice. We have a wedge forming right here on Rivian. We need to try to break past 13 to turn bullish. Otherwise, it might just consolidate. I'm hoping we try to break out of this soon. There's no sign yet, so we have to see how Rivian does. But for now, we're looking for like a consolidation move. I'd love to see this break 13 to really turn bullish. We haven't really gotten that break yet, so we're waiting to see. So overall, it's just in a wedge. SoFi is on a bit of a downtrend here, unless we try to hold above 15. So 15.14 holds. We're looking for a bounce for essentially 16 or above. If we lose 15.14, we could be dumping back down, but look for this bullish divergence and a bounce here back up towards the 16s. For AMD has a double bottom here at 113. We're looking for a push for 116.7 and 118.5 as our resistances. So I think there's a very, very good chance we try to push back up towards the 118s. So I think that we're looking bullish right now. Look for 116.7 to then 118.5 as our resistances. We have a double bottom forming very, very nicely. Might try to push a bit, hopefully after earnings. So we'll see just to be safe. ARM is looking a bit more bullish. We have a nice cup and handle like structure that has been developing. So I think that this cup and handle could be looking for a push for about 166 as the most likely possibility. Overall, it's doing a good job so far. On coin, we look a bit more bullish. If we're above 289, we're looking for an attempt to get back up towards 292. If we can't hold 286, we dip back down towards 280. I'm hoping we try to push a little bit more with Bitcoin to fill this gap and get back up towards the 290s. Amazon's looking bullish, looking for 240 is our target for tomorrow. If that breaks, we're looking for 242.5 and 245. Why? Because we have earnings very soon. There might be some more buyers who step in. Meta's looking bullish as long as we're above 700. We're looking for 710 plus and new all-time highs. Unless we lose 7 or 682. If 682 fails us, we dip back down to lower levels. As long as we're above 682, we're favoring an uptrend into the 700s. For Microsoft, I want to see if this could try to hold above the 413 area. As long as we're above that, we're looking for an attempt to get back up towards 420. If we end up losing 408, we're looking for a dip back down, but I'm favoring a push for essentially 420. For Google, we look bullish as we're on a nice uptrend so far. If we lose 201, we're looking for a dip, and as long as we're above support, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 206.5 or higher. So I think we're looking more bullish here. For GameStop, we're looking bullish. If we could try to hold above 25, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 26.78. If we try to hold above the threes, we're looking for an attempt for 3.18 as well. DJT is looking bullish. We have a gap to fill for 31.68, so it's looking pretty good. The VIX, although it's trying to rebound here, I just want to call out there's a big gap down here. So typically when you form gaps like this, it kind of like does this, starts dipping back down to fill that gap towards the 17s. That could signify there's a little bit more upside coming to the markets. The market may try to push a bit more, so that could drag this a little bit lower. Two more things. The 10-year is still very flat. There's still this head and shoulders like structure. This would have pushed more because of tariffs, but for now, this might dip a bit, which tends to be bullish. The dollar started dumping ever since the news came out about the tariffs being delayed. So that is a good sign for the markets. This could, this looks bearish, which tends to be bullish for the market as well. So that being said, guys, the market is looking a little bit more bullish. As long as we could try to hold above some key levels, I do anticipate more upside just for the time being. I'll keep you guys updated if there's more news involving the tariffs. But for now, with them being delayed on Mexico and Canada and with new changes, that is very, very important. I thank you for listening, guys. Please have a good rest of your day. I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow with another update. Until then, have a good day and peace out.